¿Comprar un arma para alguien a quien no se le permite hacerlo? Eso es un crimen. Podría costarle hasta 15 años de cárcel y una multa de $250,000 si alguien le pide que le mienta a un distribuidor de armas de fuego con licencia federal para poder comprarle un arma. No lo haga. ¿Tienes un consejo? Llame 1-888-ATFT-IPS. Eso es 1-888-283-8477. Presentado por la Fundación Nacional de Deportes de Tiro y la ATF.
A middle-aged electronics store employee tries to have sex for the first time. Join us as we chat about James's worthless toys, an out-of-left-field wedding, and the real reason women are the fairer sex. Then we find out if the 40-year-old virgin stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glut. Alan says as a father, blah, blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Test of Time. My name is Alan Noah, and joining me, as always, is my favorite 45-year-old virgin, James Brief.
Well, I might drink a virgin daiquiri with a podcast like this because I never drink and pod.
Okay.
But the rest of that's not true.
Well, you are unmarried, and you are not a father, so you could be a virgin.
I guess so. All right, I guess I could. So I basically know that you've had sex twice.
Correct.
Because your kids kind of resemble a mix of you and your wife.
Exactly.
All right.
I remember when we first told my sister that Courtney was pregnant, that was what Sam said. Ha ha, you had sex. Which is very funny. Also, calling you a virgin is funny because you have been single, living in Manhattan for a very long time, and you've probably had way more sex than anyone I know. Hell, if 1% of the stories you've told me are true, you've had more sex than literally anyone I've ever met.
But Al, you've been married for 20 years, so I assume you've had just the most sex for the last 20 years.
Okay? You just keep on assuming that. Anyway, the 40-year-old virgin is turning 20, and I felt like we had to revisit this movie. I don't know how many times I've seen it over the years. Maybe just the once, maybe just bits and pieces here and there. But why don't you tell our listeners what this movie is all about, James?
Sure. This movie is about a man named Andy, a sweet, shy electronics store employee who lives a quiet life filled with action figures, video games, and zero sexual experience. When his coworkers discover that he's still a virgin at 40, they make it their mission to help him with women. As Andy starts to form a genuine connection with a smart single mom named Trish, he must decide whether to follow his friend's misguided advice or take a chance on real love.
Aww. So I don't need to ask you if this movie was a hit when it first came out 20 years ago, because I remember this was a huge hit, and it really launched Judd Apatow as a director. He'd been around as a writer and a producer and a showrunner, but this was his directorial debut. This led to Knocked Up and This Is 40 and so many other movies. But how well did it do?
This film came out on August 9th, 2005. It had a relatively moderate budget of $26 million, and it opened at number one with $21.4 million. So almost made its budget back on the opening weekend.
Wow.
And this film had legs. It had more than 5 times multiplier. It ended domestically with $109 million. It was a smash hit, and we could start at the beginning of Judd Apatow, where I discovered him first, which was Freaks and Geeks. I don't know if you discovered it the same way, but our friend Mailer, who did Shawshank Redemption with us, he introduced me to it, and he was so into it. And our other friend Darren was also into the show.
Yeah, I think I found Freaks and Geeks through Mailer. And before that, Judd Apatow worked on The Cable Guy. That's where he met his wife, Leslie Mann. He worked on The Larry Sanders Show, where he met Gary Shandling, who is a mentor and a huge inspiration to him.
We reviewed some heavyweights.
Right. He worked on Happy Gilmore, doing script doctoring, Liar Liar, Bruce Almighty. In 2004, Judd Apatow produces Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. That's a huge hit. And while they're making that movie, Judd Apatow starts talking with Steve Carell about doing a movie where he would be the star. And Steve Carell had this character from his Second City days who was a 40-year-old virgin. And they started having these conversations about how they could bring that character to life. And Steve Carell is great in Anchorman, but he's a secondary character. When this movie comes out in 2005, The Office had just come out, the US version, but it was only that first season, which was, I think, 6 or 8 episodes. It got kind of a lukewarm reaction. It did not catapult Steve Carell to superstardom. That was this movie. This movie is actually credited with helping The Office, not just because the 40-year-old virgin was popular, but they saw how Steve Carell played Andy as kind of more of a lovable but misguided kind of guy. And that changed his portrayal of Michael Scott. In that first season, he was just kind of more intimidating and nasty of a boss. And they kind of softened him to make him a little bit more Andy-like because of the 40-year-old virgin. But I want to talk about the beginning of the movie. Right from the get-go, when you first see Andy, you kind of know that he's a virgin. And yes, of course, you know that because that's the title of the movie, and his face is on the poster. Very memorable poster, by the way.
Unbelievable poster.
Yes, just from the opening credits, you understand not just that he is a virgin, but kind of why he's a virgin. It's not just, oh, he likes action figures, oh, he likes video games. This is a man who is alone. And they make that very clear. Just seeing his apartment, seeing him use that double sink, the 2 sinks, and he's only on one side. Everything about him reeks nerd, dork, virgin. And not the cool kind of nerd/dork that we think about now.
Like me and you.
Of course, right. This is kind of I don't want to call him pathetic, but he's lonely.
He's not pathetic, but he's traumatized from past experiences.
Yes.
The movie tiptoes into the, oh, you have these action figures in a box, you're a complete loser of society. But it tiptoes out of that later in the film, where basically it's like, yeah, I mean, having this all over your house like a museum is kind of weird.
Says you?
What are you talking about?
Everyone who's ever been to your apartment is laughing at that right now. For anyone who hasn't, it's not that different from Andy's apartment.
No way, not even close to that.
How many action figures are within arm's distance from you right now?
0.
Okay, that's just because you have short arms.
There's some little things in the apartment. That's ridiculous. I have nothing of value of action figures in my apartment.
Okay,
that's the most important thing. All the little toys. This is a little person, like the Fisher-Price little person from when I was a kid. And this is He-Man, because it's fucking He-Man. It's fucking awesome. And there's a Lego guy, and there's a train that I built when I was 8 or something.
I think you're proving my point for me, but thank you.
No, he has. I think at the end of the movie, they actually hint it was $500,000 worth of stuff.
So your stuff is worthless.
My stuff is absolutely worthless to anyone except for James Brief.
Got it.
They establish also he's a nice guy, but he's not one of these people that just absolutely cannot talk to girls. He's tried in the past and it's never worked. And he's one of these people that one foot in front of the other, one day goes and next thing you know, you're 40 years old. I think for a lot of people, not necessarily virginity, but yeah, there might be some stuff I might want to try. Like I've never tried that. And you just never got around to it. Now you should go water ski or whatever it is.
Yes, I think that's key. It would be easy to make Andy just be a person that you laugh at. Ha ha ha, he's never had sex. But I think the way that Judd Apatow frames it, he is relatable. You do kind of understand how it came to be that he is a virgin. I couldn't help but think about this term watching the movie now, 20 years later. Would you call Andy an incel? 20 years ago, they didn't have that word. But if you're going to be technical about the definition, yes, Andy is an incel. He is involuntarily celibate.
But I don't think that's what an incel is.
That's exactly right. It's like a connotation denotation thing. When you think about an incel, you think of someone who is angry and pissed off at the world, especially at women. And Andy is not like that at all. He loves women. He respects women. I think there's a line where he says he respects women so much that he stays the hell away from them. And it's tragic, and you feel bad for him. And you also feel for his friends who aren't really his friends at the beginning of the movie. They're his coworkers.
Oh, they're using him at the beginning of the movie because they literally
Sure.
don't want to go home to their women, so they need to have a valid poker game. So they need a fourth person.
Exactly. At first, they are kind of making fun of him. It's so funny when he says that boobs are like a bag of sand. It's just a genuinely funny line.
That's bad, but in his panic, he said it because he wanted to sound cool. And
Right.
like, it's such a good wrong answer because it's not too stupid.
I totally agree. And I also like the fact that later when he's biking home, he says, a bag of sand, what was I thinking?
Right.
Like, he knows that that was just the stupidest thing to say. And I've definitely been in that situation. I'm sure everybody has, where you leave a party or a get together or something and you think back on one sentence that you said and you think, my God, that was the stupidest way I could have responded to what so-and-so said. I said the dumbest possible thing. But I like the way that the different friends approach Andy and all try to give him different advice. There are nuggets in there where Andy is kind of getting overall bad advice from each of the different guys, but there are little bits and pieces of truth and accuracy and things where you're like, oh, maybe he's got a point there.
They have the right idea, but it's like Paul Rudd's actually kind of giving him good advice. Oh, but you're actually totally obsessing stalker like over this other girl. But the actual thing you said about making love with her, that nugget there, that was sweet.
Exactly. David is the Paul Rudd character, and he talks about how sex is better in a relationship. That is the one right thing that you get from David. David being a stalker, okay, all of that is wrong. The box of porn thing, I mean, it doesn't really stand the test of time because why would somebody have a giant cardboard box full of porn VHS
100%.
tapes anymore?
First thing I was thinking.
Because of the internet. But still, the idea that David comes over and says, hey, if you're going to have sex, maybe watch some porn, maybe masturbate. You could make an argument that it's a bad idea to watch too much porn. You could get the wrong idea. You could take some wrong lessons from porn. But encouraging masturbation, that's a good thing. That's a good lesson. Cal, who's the Seth Rogen character, he gives some decent advice with the whole just ask questions thing. And I think that works in a specific context, which you see with the Elizabeth Banks character. That's probably not going to be how you're going to find a woman for a serious relationship.
Oh, right.
But if you're just looking to pick someone up, that could work. And you see it work.
You know, he took it to this extreme of literally repeating what she said, but Seth Rogen's character says, just listen to her. Because he says, it doesn't matter what you say. And I agree to that. When you go up to a woman or a guy, whatever, that you're interested in on an attractive level, the first thing they're going to just look at is, am I attracted to you? Do I actually want to talk to you? Yes or no? It doesn't really, unless you say something crazy. I think he's right that just listen to her. But it's a really funny scene with Elizabeth Banks.
Oh my God. Elizabeth Banks is hilarious. I've loved her since Wet Hot American Summer. She's beautiful and so funny, and also a very talented director. Cocaine Bear was wonderful.
Incredibly successful too. Pitch Perfect too.
Sure. I personally like Cocaine Bear more than Pitch Perfect. But Jay, the Romany Malco character, his advice is less good. There are still some nuggets in there where he's saying that probably what Andy should do is have sex with people that maybe he doesn't care about so much before he has sex with Trish. You can understand that. There's a logic in there that he's going to be bad at sex at first, and maybe it's better to have, a one-night stand or two, make some mistakes, and then have sex with Trish. I think that comes from Jay. Jay is not a great role model because he is constantly cheating on his girlfriend. So a lot of what he says about sex, you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. When you think about this movie as the launching pad for so many actors and, people who just kind of blew up after this movie, Romany Malco didn't. And he is so damn funny in this movie. I read something where he asked Judd Apatow after they filmed if they could cut all of his scenes because his mom was a minister, and then he had second thoughts and was worried that this movie would offend her and offend his family and embarrass him. And Judd Apatow basically said, no, I can't cut you out of this movie, and you're really funny in the movie. And I think it was fine for him. Like, I don't think it ruined his relationship with his mom or anything. And so I don't know if that impacted his career, because Judd Apatow works with the same group of actors over and over and over again. Romany Malco's not part of that group. I wonder if that had something to do with it, but it's a shame. I feel like he would be great in Knocked Up and, all of these other Judd Apatow movies, popping up in big roles, small roles. He's just really damn funny.
I mean, I'm looking at his IMDb. He seems to have been steadily working. He did 87 episodes of a series called A Million Little Things.
Yeah, I mean, he's working. I just feel like he did not blow up like Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen did.
No, but you're right. It does bring up the question, because this is a director that usually brings the same people. I wonder what it is. I've no idea. But, one thing I do have a little insight on is the speed dating scene, because I have done speed dating.
Of course you have. How'd it go?
It's usually been, honestly, incredibly entertaining. Never once did I meet anyone from a speed. I did it probably like 4 times over the years. It's basically 20 dates in an hour, right? And like, even if it's someone like I'm so not interested, then it's over in a few minutes. So you can talk to anyone for a few minutes or listen to them for a few minutes. So that's fine. I didn't date anyone from there, but I did once bump into an ex at the at speed dating. Yes, that was interesting.
Just like in the movie. It's funny when David bumps into Amy, because before that, we just hear that they had this really special connection. And in this scene, we really see that he is pathetic and stalking her. I love when Cal, the Seth Rogen character, kind of confronts her and is like, hey, you need to stop giving my friend false hope. It's destroying him. And then Amy, who's played wonderfully by Mindy Kaling, is like, giving him hope? I changed my number. I changed my email. I moved away. What else can I do? And then Cal is like, well, I did not know any of that, and I apologize. Like, he just completely turns around in that one moment, because he's clearly only hearing one side of the story, and then the other side is quite disturbing, and he's like, oh no, my friend is a dumbass.
Absolutely. She didn't seem like she had any attraction to him at all. It wasn't like she was icked by him or something. I feel like maybe they went out once or something like that.
I think it was more than once.
Well, I guess so. Some of the stories. Yeah, he has stories of them doing stuff. But it was definitely dated. One-sided. Like, I think, you know what? They dated, but I can almost guarantee she was dating other guys at the time.
I think so. They were dating, but they were never boyfriend-girlfriend.
That's what it is.
The speed dating scene is really funny. We have to talk about the chest waxing scene. It is such a rewatchable scene. It's always funny. It's become kind of legend, but it's true that Steve Carell was really waxed for that scene, because you kind of need to be. It's not going to look right if it's faked. It's going to be weird. You want those genuine reactions. Right. And actors subject themselves to all kinds of things for different roles. And getting your chest waxed is, I assume, I've never done it, painful, but not the worst thing that could happen. But God, it just looks so horrific. Him screaming Kelly Clarkson is iconic. I'm sure you saw the picture of him with Kelly Clarkson from some award show recent-ish, like within the past couple of years, that went viral just because it's Steve Carell with Kelly Clarkson, and everyone was like, I get it.
No, I hadn't seen it, but that's hysterical. That is the joke, though. It's kind of so random.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, do you have to know her? Because she's just so, and I mean this in the most complimentary way, it's the furthest thing you would scream, Kelly Clarkson.
I think it works because her name, for whatever reason, don't ask me to explain why, but when you say it really fast and loud, it kind of sounds like an expletive. Like, it's not. It's clearly a first and last name, and we know that, But Kelly Clarkson, it does sound like a thing you would say when you stub your toe or you hurt yourself.
True. Very well could be.
Let's talk about some of the things that don't stand the test of time. Smart Tech, the store that they work at, you could say it's Best Buy-like, and Best Buys are still around. It is more reminiscent of Circuit City to me. I don't fully know why, but obviously Circuit Cities are gone. And just so much of the tech in there, when he first meets Trish, he's talking about a VHS player, and he's like, oh, well, maybe get a DVD VHS player that'll last a little bit longer, but even still, it'll be obsolete, ha ha ha. And yeah, of course it is. There's a section in the TV area that's called flat screens. Now, that's not a separate section in a Best Buy, it's just TVs. All of the TVs have flat screens, because of course they do now in 2025. Like, it's a setting that works for these characters, but it feels of its time.
At the end of the day, the only tech you really see are big screen TVs and a camcorder. Of course, a camcorder is out of date, but a video camera, for the rest of time, you're going to have 14-year-old boys or men that act like 14-year-old boys mimicking fellatio on a camera. They're going to do that forever. But I feel like in this film, Smart Tech could be any other store. When they remake this film, which they will, it could be any corporate store pretty much, where he's just kind of a little overqualified for what he's doing there.
Along those lines, what's Andy's dream? He wants to open his own electronics store. It's kind of easy to imagine that doesn't go well.
You're right. If you open up your own electronics store, you just don't have the volume. You need to tell Samsung, we're not going to buy 1,000 Blu-ray players. We're going to buy 100,000 of them and distribute them to all of our Best Buys, 50 per store. He's inevitably going out of business.
Right. Also, Trish's "we will sell your stuff on eBay" store, probably not going to be around for very long.
That never made sense, though. I think it was always meant to be a ridiculously stupid business. It's not even, it's a thrift store that everything on here is on eBay. That would make sense. But it's literally, you cannot buy anything. I think they're showing how bad a businesswoman she is. She is not a good businesswoman in any way if she refuses to sell to the Jonah Hill character. Having sold a lot of stuff on eBay, I honestly think her business is supposed to be a joke. It's stupid.
Yes, it's played for laughs. Apparently, it was based on a real store that they saw, and so they were like, oh, we could incorporate that into the story. And you do see that in the first scene of the movie. When Andy first goes to work, you see it across the street. But I think while talking about things that don't stand the test of time, the thing that really leapt out at me was the "you know how I know you're gay" scene. And I get it. That's how guys talk. It's not the most offensive thing. We have seen so much worse when it comes to homophobic quote unquote jokes in other movies. This just feels unnecessary. And it also does feel like improv, which it was. I think the original outline for the scene was Paul Rudd talking about how he was going to kill himself. And then just as they were riffing, this is kind of where they landed. Some of the jokes are funny when he says, "You know how I know you're gay? Because you just told me you're not going to have sex with women anymore." All right, that's funny. When he says, "You know how I know you're gay? Because you like Coldplay?" That's just not funny, I don't think.
That's not a funny joke. This scene, you're right, there's nothing horribly offensive in it. And it really goes to, do you want to know how straight men that really don't give a shit if you're gay or not, do you want to know how guys have talked like that before? Yes. I think the joke that really kind of is the way that innocent kind of straight guys would talk would be the joke when he goes, "You know, I know you're gay because you have a bumper sticker that says I like balls in my mouth." And then the other, without missing a beat, Seth Rogen's character goes, "Wait, that's gay?" Because
right,
the offended guy
yeah.
would go, "Fuck you, I don't have that on my truck, or I don't have that." But I totally get why you wouldn't necessarily have that scene written today. Like the way Romany Malco's character says earlier in the beginning when it looks like Andy's never touched a boob before, and he's like, "Dude, are you gay? It's okay. I totally have friends that are gay." I don't like that he adds that second line that says "in prison."
Yeah.
Without that line, I really genuinely do think they don't really care. They honestly wouldn't care if Andy was a virgin, but they'd also be like, wait, you're a gay virgin too? Like, they would want to get him laid with a guy. I really think that the movie would be the same thing.
Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about Andy's relationship with Trish, because I think the movie does a really good job of showing the relationship evolve from when they first meet and they flirt to their first date. And I like that they show both characters screwing up. Trish admits that she should have told him before he went home with her that she has kids. And he's like, yeah, you probably should have given me a heads up on that. Obviously, he doesn't know what he's doing with the condoms and everything. In that scene where he just keeps trying with the condom over and over and over again, it's because they're about to have sex and she goes to the bathroom. And she's in the bathroom for a really long time while he's messing around with all of these condoms. That's the thing you're not supposed to think about. I know.
I also think he would have learned that on YouTube today. And that's the kind of thing he would have found out how to do that kind of stuff if he was curious about it.
Yes, but he might not have done that work ahead of time because this was their first date.
He wasn't expecting it.
He was not expecting that it would go there. But, you know, he makes a lot of mistakes. The fight that they have at the end is brutal, but also it builds because it's not just that Andy is a virgin, it's that he's afraid. We see him afraid of sex, and it's not a thing to be feared, but, you know, if you're a 40-year-old virgin, you could see why this guy would be afraid of sex. I never really noticed it before, but during that fight scene with him and Trish, Andy is his action figures because they're new and they're in the box and the seal has never been broken and it's so much more valuable. You have to keep it pristine. Like Andy, he's pristine and pure, just like his mint action figures. The scene where he takes the daughter, played by Kat Dennings, to the clinic, that's very, very funny. It's also creepy as hell to take your girlfriend's daughter to the sex clinic. They've been dating for, I don't know, a couple of months. It just feels like a thing he wouldn't do. Like, she thinks he's a weirdo. Bringing her to the sex clinic would make him more of a weirdo.
I've seen a girlfriend or boyfriend of a single parent bring a kid to me as a doctor for, like, you know, sore throats and stuff. I think if some guy was like, hey, this is my girlfriend's daughter and we have like some kind of sexual issue here, I'd be like, wait, what? Who are you? Like,
right.
Where are mom and dad?
It's like a heated moment between her and her mom.
It is.
So they're not going to go to the clinic that day, but give it a couple days, calm down, and then Trish should take her daughter to the clinic.
Yeah. What do you think of the ending musical number?
Well, when I think back to the ending of There's Something About Mary and all of the characters singing along to Build Me Up Buttercup by the Foundations, I think that's perfect. That is the perfect song choice for that moment. I can't really explain why. It just feels like there is no other song that would be better for that movie. Aquarius, Let the Sunshine In, I just feel like it's not the perfect song here. Well, Alan, what's a better song? I don't know. I don't know that I could come up with a better song. I just feel like there is a better song out there than Aquarius / Let the Sunshine In.
I agree, and I also feel like there should have been an end of the movie and then a musical end credits scene.
Okay.
I don't love the breaking of the fourth wall of it. It's not a big deal. It's not a huge sit on it. It didn't do anything for me, and it detracted from that scene. There were funny-esque things in there. I didn't think anything was particularly funny. I remember in the theater, everyone laughing at Seth Rogen being shirtless and kind of singing the deep part.
Harmony and understanding.
Yeah, and like kind of almost touching his nipples, which is always kind of a funny move.
Judd Apatow gives Gary Shandling credit for it, where Gary Shandling gave him the suggestion that the movie needs to end with it being clear that Andy is having not just sex, but really good sex because he's in love. And I think that's a good note. I don't know that Apatow nails the execution. My bigger problem with the ending is that Andy and Trish get married before they have sex. That feels really out of the blue. There is so much conversation in the movie about sex. They talk about sex alone, masturbation. They talk about sex with a one-night stand. They talk about sex in the context of a relationship. And they talk about sex and love. They never talk about sex and marriage. That never comes up in the entire movie. And, you know, in the scene before that, when Andy confesses that he's a virgin, and Andy and Trish say that they love each other, and now they can have sex, there's no need for them to get married first. In my opinion, I guess there are some people who are religious and maybe feel like, no, you should not have premarital sex. Okay, fine. But that doesn't really seem like that's Judd Apatow's opinion in general. It feels really out of place in the movie because it's never come up at all. There's great continuity in the movie where after the chest waxing scene, anytime you see Andy shirtless, he has those patches of hair missing. When you get to the very end, when they're in bed together and they have sex, all the hair is grown back. So how long have they waited?
That's a good
They've
point.
clearly sold a lot of the toys. They have all of this money. His chest hair has grown back. He's a hairy guy. Maybe it doesn't take that long. But there is still a waiting period that is unnecessary. I think they should have just had sex. I don't really understand why Judd Apatow had these characters get married. The only joke that comes from it is the guy buffing the marble floor. That's funny. That's a funny gag, because if they just went back home, you know, to have sex, his place, her place, there wouldn't be a guy buffing the floor. But they could have had some other joke there. I don't know. It just felt like really out of left field.
I agree with you. There's really no reason. Like, he could have fallen through that billboard, and then it kind of makes their way that they have that sex that night and the movie ends.
Exactly.
And he could propose to her that next morning, and so we could do this every night for the rest of our lives, and, you know, blah blah blah. But I do agree with you. The marriage thing does seem to come out of left field. But, you know, I don't want to do a spoiler for Knocked Up because we haven't reviewed it, but I think don't they get married at the end?
No.
Oh, they stay together at the end. Maybe they stay together. Maybe they're a little bit together at the end.
But it's funny that you bring that up. This is kind of a third rail term, but Knocked Up kind of has quote unquote traditional values where this woman gets pregnant and abortion is very, very, very briefly mentioned. And, you know, the character's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to have the baby. And in this movie, they talk about sex, but then they get married first. It's funny because Judd Apatow, I've heard interviews with him. I've read a lot of his stuff. I'm reading his book. He is a Hollywood liberal, probably not surprising. But in his movies, there are some quote unquote traditional values, not in the way of one man and one woman must be married and only to procreate. And, you know, not in like a super religious kind of way, not in a right wing kind of way. But Judd Apatow is a family man. He's been married to Leslie Mann for decades. They're very happy. That's great in general, but especially in Hollywood, like, holy shit, he's got, you know, this life partner. And he does have respect for some of these kind of traditional values. I hate saying traditional values. I keep saying it. I hate that I keep saying it.
I disagree a little bit. I mean, I think in Knocked Up, just so they don't have an abortion, who cares? They think abortion is not something they want to do. That's absolutely can be anyone's values. But the fact that they're having that conversation, that's the conversation that you have. That's an Apatow value right there. And they don't say no woman should ever be able to do this. That's the difference. But I think in this case, the wedding part is weird because I did notice the chest hair scene, and that really does put the timeline. It's many months, and this wasn't like a wedding at like in the backyard. Like, this has some kind of officiator. I hate how the officiator is in on the joke that he's a virgin. Like, I don't like that everyone in town knows this. Like, all right, the guys at Smart Tech know, but the guy literally announces it at the whole wedding and consummated, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me that much because that's just like a running gag that everyone knows that he's a virgin. Also, the priest is Loudon Wainwright III, famous singer on screen for 2 seconds. But James, let me ask you about the movie as a whole. Do you think that the 40-year-old virgin stands the test of time?
I think this is an easy one. Yes, it does. I mean, this film is just superbly acted, very well written and directed, and I think it all comes together. The minor characters, like Jane Lynch is someone that kind of holds the film together, and
Yeah.
Romany Malco, and of course Paul Rudd's an A-list star now, but Elizabeth Banks and Leslie Mann and Kat Dennings is really good in this film. Everyone does a great job in this, and it's funny. It's well acted, and I care about the characters. Yeah, I don't love the very, very end, but, there's a lot of films like that. Overall, stand the test of time. What about you, Al? 40-Year-Old Virgin, stand the test of time?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It is very, very funny. It works on so many levels. It has been criticized and reevaluated from a modern lens because of the homophobic jokes. Some Judd Apatow stuff is accused of being misogynistic or even just a little bro-y. I think some of that's a little unfair. This movie has a male focus, undeniable. It is told from a male point of view, but that works. And, Judd Apatow would produce Bridesmaids, and he would work with Lena Dunham on Girls. Trainwreck starred Amy Schumer. Judd Apatow clearly loves women. This movie just has a male focus. So what? It's about guys. It's about sex. It's about friendship. Honestly, as corny as it is, it's about love. Even though I don't love the whole they get married first thing, Judd Apatow does take Gary Shandling's note, and it is clear that the movie is saying sex is better when you're in love. And that's sweet. That's a nice sentiment. Thinking about it in terms of Andy as an incel, that's kind of a thing that no one would have thought about 20 years ago because that wasn't a thing. But whatever. That's neither here nor there. Just a couple of random things that don't stand the test of time. B. David Caruso in Jade. Like, I know of that movie. I haven't seen it. I don't think many people have. Not only does Andy work at a Circuit City-like store, but then he goes in to hit on Beth, who works in a Barnes & Noble-like store. And, 20 years ago, there could be a Barnes & Noble right next to a Circuit City. Nowadays, it is highly unlikely that you would find a big bookstore next to a big electronics store. When they find out that Trish looks like a grandma, I think it's Seth Rogen who says, "My grandma looks like Jack Palance." There's a Mentos, the Fresh Maker reference in there. These are small little details. It's a very, very funny movie. And yes, I definitely think that it stands the test of time. One other random thing that's neither here nor there, that scene where they're smashing the fluorescent bulbs against each other outside of the store. It's very, very funny and 100% seems like a thing that dumbass guys would do. Don't do that. That is a very, very dangerous thing to do. You will breathe in a lot of toxic mercury. That is not a smart thing to do.
You'll also get shards in your eyes or something, but absolutely breaking light bulbs is a thing that guys do. And maybe women do it too. I'm just saying I've been around dumbass guys that just break light bulbs.
No, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Women do not smash light bulbs for their own amusement. When they get together for fun, that is the last thing they want to do. And that's why they are the fairer sex. That's going to do it for us this week. Next week, special guest Kevin Smokler is coming back on the show to talk about the movie But I'm a Cheerleader.